Hello. This is Aurora Mona ASMR, and for this video, I wanted to read out books. Well, not fully, but their synopsis or their summaries to get a general gist of the books that I have here with me. Now I have 6 books, and I'll first list off the titles before I'll actually start to essentially just talk about the summaries. Now, the first one is by a very well-known author, Agatha Christie. It is, and I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, Hercule Poirot in The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Then I have Ali Hazelwood with The Bride. Now I also have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I also have Magpie Murders by Anthony, and hopefully I'm not mispronouncing this too badly, Horowitz. And by the same author, I have The Twist of a Knife. And lastly, I have, it's backwards, so okay, there we go. Just Like Home by Sarah Galley. Let's actually start with this one. So, I'm going to open up the book to find the summary. Okay, there's a small passage as the summary. Let me read it out. Come home, Vera's mother called, and Vera obeyed. In spite of their long estrangement, in spite of the memories, she's come back to the house of a serial killer, back to face the love she had for her father and the bodies he buried there. Coming home is hard enough for Vera, and to make things worse, she and her mother aren't alone. A parasitic artist has moved into the guest house, out back, and is slowly stripping Vera's childhood for spare parts. He insists that he isn't the one leaving notes around the house in her father's handwriting, but who else could it possibly be? There are secrets yet uncovered in the foundations of the notorious Crowder house. Vera must face them and find out for herself just how deep the rot goes. The back cover, or at least actually the full cover of this book, is pink with little droplets of blood as the design, and in the front cover there is the focal point of a red house with blood dripping on the foundations, kind of alluding to what we'd expect from this thriller story. Now I'm going to set that to the side and continue with the next book. Now this book is from Anthony Horowitz, called The Twist of a Knife. And if I can find the actual summary, let's see. Okay, this one is another passage as well. Our deal is over. Reluctant author Anthony Horowitz has had enough. He tells ex-detective Daniel Hawthorne that after 3 books, he's ending their collaboration. The truth is that Anthony has other priorities. His new play, a thriller called Mind Game, is about to open at the Vaudeville Theatre in London's West End. Not surprisingly, Hawthorne declines a ticket to the opening night. The play is panned by critics. In particular, Sunday Times critic Harriet Throsby gives it a savage review, focusing especially on the writing. The next day, she is stabbed in the heart with an ornamental dagger that turns out to belong to Anthony, and it has his fingerprints all over it. Anthony is arrested by an old enemy, Detective Inspector Kara Grunshaw. She still carries a grudge from her failure to solve an earlier case, blaming Anthony. Now she's out for revenge. Thrown into prison and fearing for both his personal future and his writing career, Anthony is the prime suspect in Throsby's murder, and when a second theater critic is found to have died under mysterious circumstances, the net closes in. Ever more desperate, he realizes that only one man can help him, but will Hawthorne take the call? This book seems to be, well, it isn't the first book in the series, but maybe the third or the second. But to describe the actual book cover, the back is in a pasty yellowish white blend that has quotes from different critics about this book, obviously praise. Then in the front, there is a very old-time fashioned ticket, similar to what you would see in theaters, and a dagger, a diagonal from, or not bended diagonal, but tilted diagonally from the ticket. And in the middle of all of that, because this is the focal point of the cover design, is the title, The Twist of a Knife. And at the bottom is where the author's name is. Now, the second book from the author that I have is Magpie Murders. And if I find the summary, here it is. This one is different. When editor Susan Reland is given the manuscript of Alan Conway's latest novel, she has no reason to think it will be much different from any of his others. She's intimately familiar with his detective, Atticus Pound, who solves mysteries disturbing sleepy English villages. A homage to queens of classic British crime, such as Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers, Alan's traditional formula has proven hugely successful, so successful that Susan must continue to put up with his troubling behavior if she wants to keep her job. Conway's latest tale has Atticus Pound investigating a murder at Pye Hall, a local manor house. Yes, there are dead bodies and a host of intriguing suspects. But the more Susan reads, the more she's convinced that there is another story hidden in the pages of the manuscript, one of real-life jealousy, greed, ruthless ambition, and murder. Masterful, clever, and restlessly suspenseful, Magpie Murders is a deviously dark tale on a vintage English crime fiction in which the reader becomes the detective. Now, the previous novel and this novel are both thriller and mystery, but this one seems to be somewhat meta, if that makes sense, where we are shown a different tale inside of this story as a way to pick up the pieces as to what this detective has laid out. Now, going to a different author, we have Taylor Jenkins Reid with Daisy Jones and the Six. And here is the summary. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is The Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend, Camilla, finds out she's pregnant. With the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Billy and Daisy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting novel, written as if it were the oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. In Daisy Jones and the Six, Taylor Jenkins Reid brilliantly captures an unforgettable place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. Now, this story is, how do I say it? It's somewhat of a period piece, but typically when people think of period pieces, they think of things like Bridgerton or more earlier on time, not really the late 60s and 70s. But to describe the cover of this book, the book has an array of white and pink stripes, but on the front there is a cover of a ginger woman with painted lips and a small gap between her teeth. And at the bottom and on the top there is kind of a cut between the picture, where the top cut shows Daisy Jones and the Six title, and at the bottom includes Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author's name. This author, if you also wanted to know, also wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is also very popular. Now, to our second last book, we have Ali Hazelwood with Bride. Now, let's see if I can find the summary, because sometimes they have it inside the pages and other times it's at the back of the book, but this one is at the back of the book. Now, there's a few portions here. Actually, it's not that much. A vampire bride and an alpha werewolf form a dangerous alliance in this enthralling new paranormal romance. Now, if you haven't guessed, this is a supernatural romance. I was very curious, so this is where it led me. Misery Lark, daughter of a powerful vampire councilman, is an outcast. Her days of living anonymously among the humans are over. She has been called upon to uphold an alliance between the vampires and their mortal enemies, the Wares. The Wares, being werewolves. The Wares are ruthless and unpredictable, and their alpha, Lo Morland, is no exception. He rules his pack with ultimate authority, but not without justice or feeling. It's clear from the way he tracks Misery's every movement that he doesn't trust her. If only he knew how right he was. Misery has her own reasons to agree to this marriage of convenience, reasons that have nothing to do with politics or alliances and everything to do with the only thing she ever cared about. And she is willing to do whatever it takes to get back what's hers. Now, this seems to be, like I mentioned, an arranged marriage sort of story. So if you're into that, this could be a possible option. At the back, there is a very dark silhouette of forest trees at the back, or at the bottom of the back cover, with a dark illuminated sky with slight twinkles of stars. At the front, there is the front portion of that figure with a background of silhouetted trees, and as the focal point there is an animated figure of a vampire, which we can assume to be our main heroine, Misery, and at the back of her there is the shape of a wolf with the moon at the left side of his vision, or not his vision, but the left side of his drawing. If you have heard of Ali Hazelwood, then you may like this book. If not, she also wrote Love Theoretically. Now, towards our last book, and this isn't the first in the series, but it is third or the fourth, I'm not too sure, but it is by a very, very well-known author, Agatha Christie. Now, if you don't know who this is, then I don't know what to tell you. But you should Google who she is if you don't. Now, the full title is, and I believe I mispronounced this, but I'm probably going to mispronounce it again, Hercule Poirot in the Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Now, let's see. So this summary is very short, not like the long ones that we already had, but to make up with that, let's see if I can make some flippy noises. Okay, maybe that last one wasn't the best, but let me go and start by reading this cover. Poirot, again, probably not how you fully pronounce the name, retires to a village near the home of a friend, Roger Ackroyd, to pursue a project to perfect vegetable marrows. Soon after, Ackroyd is murdered, and Poirot must come out of retirement to solve the case. Now, this, I'm assuming, is a series from this detective Poirot. I have not read the book yet, so I'm not too sure. But everyone is very aware of Agatha Christie. If you're not, I highly, highly, highly recommend you search her up. Let me end this video with a bit of book noises or tingles. Now, thank you everyone who has enjoyed this video and has viewed this video. I hope you, like I mentioned, enjoyed it. And if you do, please like and subscribe or comment whatever you'd like. And have a good evening or have a good night.